50% of all small businesses that experience one form of attack will go out of business within 6 months. The minute you take that data from your customer or a vendor, you're liable for it. They had to go back to using paper and pen in dealing with their patients.
Welcome to The Growth Switch, the podcast where we dive into the strategies, struggles, and breakthroughs of bold business leaders. I'm your host, Jules Fox, the growth strategist and lead content creator at Aries Media. I'm here to uncover how today's top brands are scaling, overcoming challenges, and unlocking sustainable success. Now, for those of you just tuning in, Aries Media helps grow successful brands like yours with comprehensive hands-on support for sales, business development, and performance marketing. If you're into that, go ahead and drop growth into the comments, and we are happy to show you how. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Peter Prieto on The Growth Switch, and we're going to sit down with him and chat about his company. He's the CEO of nDataStore. He's a veteran cybersecurity strategist, and he's going to help us unpack how small and mid-sized businesses can grow confidently in a world of ransomware and digital risk and increasing threat levels. Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you for being here, because this is actually like a really crucial thing for businesses. We work with a lot of businesses on growth. And I think one of the most awful things that could happen to any company is getting hacked. I think that it lives somewhere in the back of people's minds, but I don't think that it's realistic enough for them. How real is the threat out there of a company actually getting hacked?
Today, the number is 50% of all small businesses that experience one form of attack will go out of business within 6 months.
That's intense, and do you feel like people
today, I think 2 years ago, it was 1 in every 4 businesses will experience one form or another of an attack. Today, it's every 1 in 2.
Yeah.
The question is not if, it's when.
Absolutely.
And are you prepared?
Yeah. And that's a good question. Posing the question, are you prepared, isn't the same as, are they actually prepared? How prepared do you think most companies are for these threats?
Not prepared at all. Very few. I think very few. I talk to customers on a daily basis. We're going through reviews with all of our customers. We do a thing called we do a QBR, which is quarterly business review with all our accounts. The theme for 25, which was the theme at the end of Q4, and 24 was security. Right, security hygiene, user hygiene, security awareness training, a lot of different elements that we can provide, services that we provide and other vendors that we work with provide to protect their biggest asset. And what I tell customers is, don't just look at your business, look at the data that you manage. You have your data for your business, but what a lot of other businesses don't realize, you also have data that you collect from your vendors. You have data you collect from your clients. That is also at risk.
Yeah.
And where that becomes a bigger problem is liability.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people think, am I protecting my company and my business? Well, yeah, but your company and your business is an ecosystem, and you have so much sensitive information from every vendor that you work with. Imagine that getting hacked, and now you're on the line. You're liable for all of that.
Yeah. It was, I think MGM, I think they experienced, I want to say 7 months ago, they got hacked. They actually paid the ransom. They were down, I think, for like 4 or 6 hours. They were down. They paid the ransomware. They just settled a class action lawsuit because of the data that got loose in that short period of time. Even though they paid the ransom, I think they settled I think it was like 40, 44, 42, $2 million. They settled on a class action lawsuit. And they paid the ransomware.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for a big company. Like even a big company like MGM is not immune to these types of attacks, how can little guys even stand a chance?
Well, the challenge is MGM can pay the ransomware. They can pay this settlement of $42 million. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but they can recover from that. A small business can't recover from either a ransomware, or if they get lucky and they can rebuild from that, which will take years, not days, not weeks, not months. Now you may be subject to a lawsuit where you let sensitive, because the minute you take that data from your customer or a vendor, you're liable for it.
Yeah.
And if it's taken through one of your, whether it's a desktop or server, a laptop, or even, a lot of people think cloud is safe. Cloud is just as vulnerable as the computer that you're working on in your office. It's no different.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, MGM is a big name that we're all aware of, but I know that you have some firsthand experience with what happens when businesses get attacked, and the process of rebuilding is painful and time consuming once they get hacked. Why don't you walk me through a couple of those stories of what actually happens to real business owners?
Yeah, we had when we first got into the IT services business, we had a couple smaller accounts that one had a cloud service that they were using that was based on the East Coast. It was proprietary to their business model. And one morning they called us and let us know that they got a notice from the cloud service that they were victim of an attack. And they asked, "Hey, what can we do?" And at that point, we said, "I mean, we're gonna get in contact with the cloud service, see what we can do to gather, recover as much data as possible, because all the data was hosted. Eventually, the cloud company decided we're not paying the ransom. We're just going to go out of business. So now they had to go. They were obviously using servers and laptops and workstations. And all their data was online. They had to go back to using paper and pen in dealing with their patients.
Yeah.
The challenge with that is the legacy information, the history of their patient was gone. So
That's
when that
horrible.
patient came in to get whatever service they were getting,
Yeah.
the patient expects you to know, what they did 6 months ago, what they did a year ago. You don't have the information. I think explaining that to the patient hurts your credibility as a business,
Yeah.
your reputations. And I think they did eventually build back, but it took them 2 years. And I had conversations with the CEO of this business. I mean, he was on the edge of his seat on a daily basis
Yeah.
for probably 12 months after the cloud service that he was paying for got hacked.
Now, tell me, as a person who had made such a big mistake, was that company willing to then look at cybersecurity and include it as a foundational?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. At that point, the decision becomes easy because they know the cost of what a breach is going to cost them. And I mean, the price is one thing, but the pain, the suffering, the frustration every night before you go to bed, every morning when you wake up, that's all that's on your mind. How do you conduct business? And they still had to try and conduct business and then figure out how they were going to have conversation with their patients that, hey, we don't have that information. We have to do this all over again. So yeah, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah. What an absolute nightmare. So tell me a little bit more about nDataStore. You came up with this company. What was the fit that you saw in the market space where this company was needed to help keep people safe?
For me, I've been in IT since '89. As funny as that sounds, so there's nothing I haven't seen. Different transitions from mainframes to when we started sending the first emails. It was the command line to the Unix type systems, and then eventually Windows based systems. But for me, I started my business in 2008. We were a systems integrator, so we provided a lot of the hardware for corporate America.
Hmm.
And then I want to say somewhere around 2015 and 16, I just felt that I was on the board of directors for the chamber. We were already helping out some local businesses with IT services. Windows, a lot of people don't realize Windows 11, Windows 10, or whatever platform they're using. It's a great application from the window perspective of it. It's very easy to use.
Hmm.
But people don't realize Windows is built on DOS.
Hmm.
DOS is a terrible operating system. DOS is what allows people like me and other MSPs to be in business.
Yeah.
Most enterprise type businesses run on Linux based applications. It's a little bit more robust, a little bit little probably a lot more secure.
Hmm.
Still have some security vulnerabilities within it now, as you're starting to see with Apple computers. We're getting a lot more alerts now with Apple computers.
Hmm.
But Windows, we're patching on a daily basis. And some of these are security patches.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say mistake number one, if you're a founder and you're opening a company, would you say get off DOS and get on a Linux system for starters?
Yeah, I would go Mac.
Yeah.
Mac today, Mac is mainstream. Mac, I mean, we're looking at converting some of our laptops for our techs to Mac
Hmm.
because we're 100% cloud based. We don't have file servers. We don't have any type of servers. We're 100% cloud based.
Hmm.
But it's going to be a lot more secure. There's still security measures that you need to take because you're still using email. And I think 94% of attacks initiate through somebody clicking on the wrong link
Hmm.
through email.
Yeah.
So that's irrelevant whether you're on Windows or Linux or Mac or any other Linux based application.
Hmm.
There's still precautions that you have to take to protect against that.
Sure. So how are you able to, in a good way, infiltrate a company and figure out these are your potential vulnerabilities and this is how you guard against these types of things?
So there's 5 pillars. We call them 5 pillars of a proper security systems operation. It's
Hmm.
email, DNS, identity, endpoint, and network.
Hmm.
So you have to look at it from those 5 elements first. You have to make sure that you have services that are protecting against those 5.
Yeah.
You want to make sure we focus on in security world, we talk about before the boom and after the boom.
Hmm.
There are a lot of applications and services that are available today that manage crisis after the boom.
Hmm.
So, for example, a year ago today, we and some of our customers still use this because they haven't invested in the full security platform yet. We're hoping to move them over to that soon. EDR is endpoint detection and response.
Hmm.
It's strictly on the endpoint and it's strictly reactive. So something has to happen on the laptop in order for us to get an alert and us to respond to it. So you're still playing catch up. And then when you consider that 94% of attacks are initiated through an email,
Hmm.
endpoint detection and response is not going to help you in any way or form there. The other fact a lot of businesses don't understand is that today attackers are sitting on your network for a minimum of 6 months, studying your habits, studying how you engage with your customers, how you engage with your vendors, how you send invoices. And then at some point in that process, they'll interrupt some form of the workflow that you have in place and then appear to be like maybe I'm sending you an invoice and we
Hmm.
do this on a monthly basis. They'll interrupt that cycle, place an invoice looking like it's coming from me, my email, my domain name, goes to you. It looks the same. You click on it, you pay it. You're not paying me, you're paying them, which means you're going to be pissed off at me because it's my responsibility to make sure that my infrastructure is solid, sound and solid and protected. And that I'm not sending you an email that's actually scam and you're paying an attacker who now may have your payment details.
Hmm. Hmm. It secures
So
the payment and makes the money and has the payment details. Yeah. Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And they didn't they didn't penetrate anything with your environment other than intercepting an invoice and studying that pattern and then using AI to replicate it. So it looks exactly the same.
Hmm.
And most employees in a business, everybody's busy, everybody's working, they're trying to get their jobs done. Sometimes you look at the email, oh, this looks like it's coming from Peter. Let me click on it, boom, done. Didn't even realize what they did. That's why it's 94% of attacks are initiated through email.
Yeah. Yeah. So, email is a big deal. Um, I think that I think that people don't really have a very clear picture of what hackers do. I think that they think, it's a bunch of young, attractive people sitting in a room, because it's what they've seen in movies, and they're like, "Bup, bup, 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 I got into the mainframe," and it's not like that at all.
It
So
used to be. It used to be.
okay,
That's where
okay,
like things like antivirus came into play, right? They'd sit out there, they send out a link or so on. But now, no, they're learning what you do in business, and then they're infiltrating that at some point in the process.
yeah. And so but I think that lack of awareness of modern threats are going to take a very different form. And it's going to be a lot more streamlined, and even smart, intelligent people who know all about phishing scams can look at something that looks nearly identical to something that they see every day, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just happens. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate because they'll sit on your network for 6 months, a year. So if you're not taking precautionary measures before the boom, you're not helping to avoid that process where the boom happens, and now you're playing catch up. You're vulnerable to that.
Yeah. So rather than playing catch up, what are some proactive things that people can do to help protect their organization?
So what we're recommending is a bundle of services that cover the 5 pillars. We're also backing that with what we call a SOC, which is a security operations center, where there's
Mhm.
actually engineers that are monitoring habits, they're monitoring traffic, they're monitoring logins 24/7. Because most attacks aren't happening from 8 to 5, right? Most attacks are coming from overseas. The time zone is different. So usually they're going to be initiated at 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. You come in the morning, you open your laptop, you log in, and all of a sudden you got a blue screen.
Yeah.
So they're
Scary.
monitoring, what the way it'll work is, let's say we launch a service, one of our clients, they're going to understand that, hey, Peter logs in from Fairfield every morning. If all of a
Mhm.
sudden they see a login for Peter, his profile, and he's logging in from Miami or he's logging in from South America, Europe, that's going to raise a red flag. They're going to react to that at that point. So alert is driven, they react to it, and then they either will contact me, they'll contact my IT services company and say, hey, what's going on here, and then a decision to be made if a password needs to be reset or not.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to why speed is so critical to today's threat environment. So why don't you walk me through that?
There's a rule called the 1-10-60 rule.
Yeah.
And if you're not employing this in your business, this is what's going to get you in trouble. So the
Yeah.
way that works, it's 1 minute to investigate,
Hmm.
whether that be a login from a different country, whether that be a suspicious email, whether that be, we had a customer actually yesterday, an employee downloaded something off of the internet and we got an alert on it. So you have to investigate it within 1 minute. Um, 10 minutes to investigate it, minimum of 10 minutes
Hmm.
to investigate it, no longer than 10 minutes to determine. So what we did with that download, he downloaded some free application off the web that
Hmm.
caused a red flag to us. We responded, and then it's 60 minutes resolution.
Hmm.
So if you're not following a 1-10-60 rule within your environment, you're looking for a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, you know,
Because everything's speed.
right. It's the speed to react, but you need to have the right systems in place. If you're not working with a security company, you could miss that. You could easily miss that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Everything you deploy should be proactive.
Hmm.
And it should be proactive, but it also should be adaptive, because hackers are trying so many different things. It's evolving. What worked last month won't work today. So everything they're doing is adaptive. So if you don't have an adaptive solution in place, that's 24/7, that includes a SOC with security engineers that are monitoring the traffic, that are monitoring the logins, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to some form of an attack at some point in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, how do you connect with founders? How do your business, how does it connect with the right people? Because it sounds to me like an unfortunate situation where many companies don't realize the value in what you do until it's too late. And what they should be doing is taking proactive steps. So how are you able to connect with these companies before a problem happens?
So we spend a lot of time and money on marketing. All of our content is based on educational content. We don't have any selling content. It's all just based on educating businesses out there, whether we're posting something on LinkedIn or TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, or Google Shorts, or emails that we're sending to prospect and clients, or webinars that we're hosting. It's all based on education. And I tell businesses, whether you're working with us or somebody else, these are the things that you need to start doing today if you're not already doing them. And then
Yeah.
we focus on the 5 pillars, and we give them an example of what businesses that are working with us today that are incorporating the 5 pillars with a SOC, and they're being adaptive, what
Hmm.
they look like, and how that feels when a CEO comes in Monday morning. They don't have to worry about anything, as opposed to somebody who's saying, hey, my business is not a threat. It won't happen to me, and what they could potentially experience at some form of time in the process. And
Yeah.
we did a webinar a week ago. We kind of went through that process.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you wanted to scale your impact and scale your revenue over the next few years, say you wanted to 10x your company, reach more companies, make sure that these companies are staying safer and that these founders, don't go belly up and bankrupt because they make these stupid mistakes that are totally preventable. How would you reach more companies on an even larger level? Sounds like you're doing great with webinars, but how would you expand your impact and your reach even
I
more?
wouldn't say we're doing great. We just started, so we're learning that process. So I think it's even as an IT services business, first step is you have to look at yourself as a marketing company, not an IT services business, right? Because IT services, security, we understand that once the customer understands what it does, why it does it, and how it does it, it's a no brainer at that point in time. The investment makes sense, but it's finding the client at the right time with the right information. And there's so many different vehicles that are out there. Is how do you master that, right? How do you determine whether it's content on social, whether it's content through Google, whether it's content through email, whether it's webinars, whether
Mhm.
it's live demos? Um, I think the magic question is what is the best form to provide that service
Yeah.
to get to as many clients as possible with the right information at the right time.
I think that's really well said. And, I would relate it to being a dad. I have a 10-year-old daughter. And for me, I know she's going to need to go out into the world and make a few mistakes, but there are some serious mistakes that as a parent, I need to guard her. I need to keep her safe and I need to protect her. And it's the type of thing where as a dad, I know I need to be proactive and I know that I need to bring that to her. So, and I think that companies are the same way.
I have 3 kids. My kids are older, but my youngest, I think, is 30. I think he's 33 now. I lose track after a while once they get a little bit older.
Yeah.
But with kids, the challenge with kids is us as parents and adults, we've made mistakes and we want to teach our kids. Hey, we don't want you to make the same mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes with kids, they have to, there's a saying, I don't know if you've heard this saying that, I can tell you that the stove is hot 1,000,000 times,
Mm-hmm.
but until you put your hand on the stove, you don't realize that it's actually hot, right?
Yeah.
Adults have to learn the hard way. Unfortunately, in business, because of what it takes to start and build a small business, you can't do that when it comes to cybersecurity and ransomware prevention. You can learn from other people's mistakes, but you don't want to put your hand on that oven and get burned because it could put you out of business.
It's fatal. Yeah. That first burn is fatal. Yeah. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So how can people best connect with you? How can I put in the show notes? I'm going to put all of the links where you can connect with Peter and where you can connect with with nDataStore. How can people best connect with you so that they can be proactive?
The easiest way is they can go to our website, nDataStore.com. Click on one of the, I think there's a free cybersecurity assessment or get help link. Click on that link, schedule a meeting with myself or one of our other account managers and just have that first conversation. Even if you think you have security in place, let's make sure that there's no gaps, right? Yeah. Our goal is to make sure that there's no gaps in your infrastructure. There's no gaps in your security. You're 100% covered. Worst case scenario, we have a conversation and we realize, hey, you got all the gaps covered. You're good. You're good to go.
Yeah. How often would you say that because when you sit down and meet people where you're just like, hey, I give you my blessing. You guys are doing everything possible. You guys are.
It's because attacks are evolving and their adaptive, security is revolving and adaptive. So there are a lot of security services provider that are out there. Usually they do 1 or 2 things very well, but they're not adaptive. They're not constantly changing their application to take advantage of some of the things that the attackers are doing. And they're 1 or 2. There are not many vendors out there that are doing all 5 and doing it well, and then doing it so that it's adaptive.
Yeah.
And it's evolving with the attacks that are happening on an ongoing basis. It's an ever-changing landscaping. And if you're not staying at the edge of that, you're falling behind, you're playing catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really well said. And I think that that's an incredibly critical thing for founders to understand. So if you're listening to the podcast, get over to that website, book a meeting, check it out, at least have a peek and get a second set of eyes to look over. Prove Peter wrong. Show him that your security is so good. There's nothing you could do to.
There are no gaps.
Improve it. Yeah.
You know what? I would actually, in the webinar that we did, I think one of the quotes that was in there that I really enjoyed is that, why do we do this? Because and I think the way it read is, we rather help you prevent an attack than profit from fixing one that you've encountered. So I would love to have a conversation with somebody, say, we got all the gaps covered.
Yeah.
Kudos. That would be one less business that we would have to worry about falling victim to one form or another of an attack. Yeah.
Fantastic. Peter, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your expertise and insight. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very, very much.